Here we have to discuss tragedy. Historical account of the tragedy. That tragedy is a religious in origin. Even before the classical Greeks, peasants performed hymns and dances in the name of the wine god Dinos- Dionysus. They used to have rough and ready chorus. The song had the character of dramatic dialogues. These songs were called dithyrambs, which is German for the great Greek tragedy writers. The Greek word for the tragedy is tragos, means goat, and the dithyrambs were goat songs as the singers used to wear goat skin. Athens had been the center of all the activities when the Greek tragedies were written, a kind of civic and religious festival in which the dramatic performances were written. A kind of civic and religious festival in which the dramatic performances were prominent was regularly conducted. They were performed in the auditorium with tiers of stone benches. The stage was to be small building. The chorus with tiers of stone was sung in front of this building. The chief actors wore masks. They were made to look taller with the high soled shoes. The robes were long and flowing. With all these, the actors looked dignified and godlike. Modern themes and plots of the tragedy are different from those of the Greeks. There were traditional themes, but the modern dramatic is free to choose them. The Greek characters were historical or mythological. The cause of the tragedy was defense of God or moral order, and the violator was punished by justice or fate. The first trilogy was Agamemnon. This general written from Troy with play of the Cassandra as his body. Both were mounted by Clytemnestra, his wife, and her lover, who was the cousin brother of Agamemnon. The reason were that Agamemnon had sacrificed his daughter to get favorable wind, and he was in love with the someone. The lover's father was murdered by Agamemnon's father by treachery. Thought, thought they were brothers. Clytemnestra appeared on the stage with the axe which she killed her husband. The second play of the trilogy is Choiphon, in which Agamemnon's sons Orestes and daughter Electra meet, and Orestes was bent on avenging his father's murderer. Clytemnestra and Aegisthus were husband and wife now. Orestes went into palace with the friend both disguised as merchants and both Augustus and Cleomenes were killed. The third play of the trilogy is Eumenes, in which the judgment of Orestes is the theme. This is a difficult play of the trilogy. The further were bent on punishing Orestes, and he sought the protection of god Apollo. But Zeus also intervened. Then godness, Athene made the Furies soft, asking them to be human and parade Orestes. Athene also asked them to make Athene their dwelling. The Furies were thus crucified and they were transferred into Eumenes. This is the information about the historical account of the tragedy. Now, then after the characters in the Greek tragedy, the subjects and the plots already familiar to the audiences. The chorus, which narrates the past event, comments on the events of the play and take part in the dialogue. A dislike for violence or horror actually represented on the stage. They were done in the background. Minor characters, messengers, heralds were used to describe events which were disgusting to audience. The number of actors was very small. The plays of Thespis, the inventors of tragedy, 6th century BC, introduced one actor separate from chorus. Astyus introduced the second action and four late. A preoccupation with the primitive themes of blood, guilt, and revenge, a sense of drama as something resembling a religious ceremony. The moral aspect was upheld. This was late slackened. Characters which were always above the level of common humanity, king and queens, princes or great leaders. This is the information about the characters of Greek tragedy. Then it is about the Aristotle that the performance of the trilogy was rounded off with the satire play, which was to be less exalted in tone. Behind this, there was an idea of comic relief within the compass of the tragedy itself, but it was thought to be indecorous. Many of the ideas of modern critics of literature are derived from Aristotle. His studies and speculations covered almost every field of life. In his Poetics, Aristotle considers poetry in general and tragedy in particular. He defines tragedy. Tragedy is an imitation of action that is important, entire of certain magnitude by language, embellished and more pleasurable, and using method not of narration but of action, affecting through pity and terror a purgation of these emotions. We enjoy seeing on the stage of reading about certain events. These emotions which we neglect in real life. We are moved by the act of blending of Oedipus, but it was not happen in real life. Subconscious nature. We have the capacity for pity and fear, and number of emotions ought to be expressed, or they would cause harm if repressed. Such emotions are realized by seeing or reading a tragedy, and it is good thing. This is what Aristotle means by Kath arises. He further says that the story of the plot is most important. This is made more effective by anagnosis, sudden recognition of discovery and peripetra or reversal of situation. He thought that it happens in King Oedipus and Hamlet. In the New Testament, the story of Dives and Lazarus is good example of peripetia. Aristotle also discussed the characters of tragic hero or protagonist. It the hero in wholly virtuous and without any fault. His fall seems shocking. On the other hand, if the hero is wholly bad, his fall brings satisfaction and not pity. But in these cases, the real tragic does not happen. Only the poetic justice is done. In genuine tragedy, some error, human frailty happens in the case of the hero. It is hamartia or human weakness in an otherwise good character. The conception of hamartia is essential to understand all tragedies. It is more relevant in the modern time. This is what differentiates between the tragedy and melodrama. The martyrdom of the saint may leave us cold because he is so different from us. Some of the Shakespeare's best known tragic characters show such a fatal flaw. Hamlet delayed his action because of undue interfaces, undue interference. Othello failed to verify the truth about the accusation. Lear made mistake in understanding the real truth out of the language used. These are this is some of the introductory information about the historical amount, the characters, and about the Aristotle as far as tragedy is concerned, where we have the reference of the poetics written by Aristotle. Then after we have to see conflict, then hero of the tragedy, then the tragedy in the Shakespeare, and then Julius Caesar. Then after we have to go for the question and answer. Okay, thank you.